Hello everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Okay, this is the holiday week. Yes, it's July 4th. Okay, but it's a regular week for me. I still I still work. So let's talk about what's wrong with China's aerospace industry. I think I surprised myself today when I was preparing for this live stream. I started out with a subject, and I surprised myself by what I was able to find. I think I want you to stay with me until the end. We're going to do a vote. We're going to decide if the rocket incident that we saw a few days ago, on I think it was June 30th, an expected launch, an accidental rocket launch. We're going to decide whether that was a real accident or uh, an intentional failure to protest Xi Jinping. Um, I haven't made up my mind, but I'll present you everything that I've gathered. They're very compelling, but I want everyone to help me, and then we can do a vote here at the end. So let's get started. This is one of the episodes where I surprised myself with the amount of information I could gather. I started out with a very simple idea, but I'm so that's what I'm quite excited with what I will present you. Okay, so in less than 10 days, the Chinese have filmed two instances in which something has gone wrong with their rockets. On June 22nd, China launched a Long March 2C rocket from the Xichang Satellite Center. And the social media videos, hold on, do I have a video? I think I do. Here we go. Social media, oh, here we go. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah. It was, let me just, y basically people's, a rocket booster failing on a village as people ran away. And experts say the orange and brownish fumes, were indicative of toxic fuel, that was not, burnt. And some experts even commented on that this type of toxic and outdated rocket launch technology is from World War II era. So that was June 22nd. And then in less than 10 days, around 3:30 p.m. on June 30th, a rocket without a nose cone was unexpectedly launched and then quickly fell to the ground, causing a violent explosion in the suburbs of Gongyi city in Hunan province. So let me here's the video. They're saying it's burning, it's burning. So this is a video from a different angle. This is a different angle. Okay. All right. So let me come back. So you've seen the video. I've um the the control center of the rocket launch center, the control center immediately shut down the engine of the rocket, and it fell 1.1.5 kilometers southwest of the test stand. and it disintegrated after falling into the mountains. I mean, the official media said there was no casualties, but we don't know. Now, it was an unexpected launch, and this one is the rocket is by a private company called Space Pioneer, which is a Chinese copycat of Elon Musk's SpaceX. So today we'll talk about what's wrong with China's aerospace industry, right? And some say the rocket failures are deliberate acts from the PLA protesting Xi Jinping's political purging in the defense industry. And it might be related to his severe punishment of the two disgraced defense ministers. So today's talk, I'll separate them into 5 parts. The first is the 2 incidents, which I already covered. I already showed you the 2 videos. Next, I'll talk about this Chinese copycat called Space Pioneer. Actually, I have it here. Here we go. Chinese Pioneer. Oh, wait a minute. No, this one. Yeah. And then I'll talk about one source that revealed the detrimental effect of Xi Jinping's political purging in the PLA and the Chinese military industries. And then another source revealed how severely Xi Jinping plans to punish the 2 defense ministers. And the last one is collectively we'll decide if the rocket accident, the one that we saw, are they intentional act? I mean, are they real accidents or they're, intentional accidents to protest? Okay, so that's the plan for today. So first things first, let me talk about this Chinese copycat. So shortly after the accidental rocket launched, this private aerospace technology company based in Beijing called, in Chinese, is Tianbing Technology, and in English, it's called Space Pioneer. It quickly came forward with a statement claiming that the exploded rocket was a large-scale liquid carrier rocket. It's called Tianlong 3, number 3, which was undergoing a static hot test of a 9-engine cluster power system at the Comprehensive Testing Center, and it got accidentally launched. So the so-called static hot test of the rocket propulsion system refers to the rocket being securely fixed to the test stand and then testing the condition of the engines after turning on the engine, after ignition. However, the system was supposed to secure the rocket. The system that was supposed to secure the rocket to the test stand malfunctioned, leading to the rocket inadvertently being launched and turning into a supersized firecracker. One Chinese media called Science Innovation Daily quoted an insider as saying that the cause of the incident might be due to the rocket's thrust being underestimated, leading to the actual thrust exceeding the test stand's capacity. It might also be due to operational errors or issues with the test stand. So let's talk about this. That was just the technical explanation from this company and also from Chinese media. Now let's talk about this company and who is behind it. This company was established on April 10th, 2019, and it's China's first private commercial space company. And basically, it's modeled after SpaceX. Even the name has mimicked SpaceX, right? It's called Space Pioneer. Its main business includes the development of new generation liquid rocket engines and medium to large sized liquid carrier rockets. And even though it's a private company, anyone who's familiar with Chinese politics and China knows that the CCP will never allow a private company out of its control to have the ability to launch rockets. So Space Pioneer is certainly state-owned military entity with the disguise of a civilian business. It's a vanguard of CCP's civilian/military hybrid or fusion in in the aerospace sector. The Chinese media stated that most of its core team members come from major national aerospace groups, such as the China Aerospace Science and Technology and China Aerospace Science and Industry. I think both are two um, state-owned companies. Its chairman, I have a picture of him. Sorry, what's his name here? This is this guy, Kang Yonglai. He is the chairman, founder, and chief rocket engineer. He was the chief engineer of the Long March 11 rocket um, at the former CCP's Rocket Technology Research Institute. He's a well-known expert in the rocket force and has led the overall design work for the Dongfeng 17 hypersonic missile. His company, this new company, Space Pioneer, its first successful launch of a carrier rocket took place at the Jiuquan Satellite Center in Gansu, which is controlled by the PLA's rocket force. The Gansu Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is entirely a military facility. So basically, Space Pioneer is a PLA aerospace unit linked to the rocket force, masqueraded as a private enterprise. Now let's talk about its financing. Over the past 5 years, Space Pioneer has completed 15 rounds of financing, accumulating over 4 billion yuan in funding. It's not a lot of company. I mean, it's not a lot of money for a rocket, for aerospace company. But the major financial companies that's supporting it is it's called China International Capital Corporation, or CICC, and CITIC Construction Investment. You know, CITIC and CICC, they're major, they're one of the largest Chinese financial firms. And other stakeholders include National Science and Technology Investment. So, CICC, or China International Capital Corporation, is well known to be controlled by former Premier Zhu Rongji's son, Zhu Yunlai. And CITIC, CITIC, is a financial conglomerate that was controlled by the Deng Xiaoping's children. So you see, Space Pioneer, this company, has strong ties to the princelings. And in a nutshell, it's a rocket forces private company backed by the princelings. Okay, now that's precisely, how should I put it? It's precisely because of the company's close ties to the rocket force and the Red Princelings that might have caused the rocket's test failure. So in my Saturday night's live stream, I analyzed the downfall of China's two defense ministers, Li Shangfu and Wei Fenghe, based on the official statements issued by Beijing that detailed their crimes. And according to one Chinese media personality who is well connected in Beijing, the failing rockets, the failing rocket is tied to the downfall of the two defense minister. Let me talk about this media personality. So this is Zhao Lanjian, who's an award-winning investigative reporter, and he reviewed on social media X a few days ago. By the way, the links are provided. I have already provided you the links of the sources, of my sources, of the two individuals who reviewed these information. So you can, but they're in Chinese. So he reviewed that according to a close contact he has in Beijing, Xi Jinping is conducting a rare, extensive purge within the military and military-related enterprises and associated SOEs, resulting in the collapse of morale across these organizations. Mr. Zhao explained that in the name of anti-corruption, Xi Jinping is clearing personnel in the defense sector, such as the Central Military Commission. The Central Military Commission includes the 7 members, but it has quite a number of organizations and offices. Right? The commission has a number of offices, so it has a large staff in the commission. So he is cleaning, doing political purging in the Central Military Commission, the armed forces, the aviation and aerospace industries, large SOEs, and the armament industries, leading to the arrest or the disappearance of numerous senior officials. The investigations and purging have reached down to middle management levels. It's an unprecedented cleanup since the founding of the PRC. This is all according to Mr. Zhao. This purging primarily targets the people linked to the 2 defense ministers. And the goal is to clean out their influences. And Mr. Zhao also noted that the recent spat of rocket crashes, 6 months after the arrest of the commander of the rocket force, and not just the current commander of rocket force, but like 2 previous commanders of rocket force. So, but 6 months after the arrest of the current commander, we start to see the side effect of the purges, purges. And he said, quote, he said, the rocket force is closely integrated with China's Ministry of Aerospace, multiple satellite launch bases, and the Aerospace and Satellite Technology and Research Institutes. They share human resources together and even swap staff members. And he said that China's everything is from his contact in Beijing. Okay, so it's not he said, it's what he said in the media interview based on the information he got from his sources in Beijing. So he added that China's aerospace industry has visibly deteriorated nearly a year into Xi Jinping's purge. People are forced to realign themselves politically, and they target each other in political exposés. Many people have been detained. Some are mysteriously missing, and some might have even been killed. And this has left everyone terrified and disinterested in their work, because this round of purging and investigation will last until October 1st. So what, today's July 2nd? So 3 more months. 3 more months of this. 3 more months of terror. And furthermore, Mr. Zhao mentioned that the recent reports of explosions at several ammunition depots are attempts by these people to destroy evidence of corruption by the military personnel. And I did a little bit investigation once I saw that. And there were, for example, this is a Voice of America report. So on June 18th, VOA reported an ammunition depot in Hunan province experienced an explosion as soldiers were loading ammunition. And less than 10 days later, on June 27th, a massive explosion occurred at another depot in Guizhou. It was June 27th. The post that you're looking at said that Japan's national TV network, NHK, has tallied the total number of such explosions in China in 2024, and the number is 7. The Chinese media didn't report it. The number of casualties is unknown. Someone in a different post said that according to data captured by US military satellites, there have been 7 suspected PLA ammunition depot explosions in China in 2024. So that matched with the NIH report. in Japan. So why this is happening? Well, this is very similar to China's local grain depots that are prone to fire before central government's inspectors arrive. Right. So every time, the central government sends a team of investigators or inspectors to check local grain depots, and these depots will, inadvertently or mysteriously catch fire. They will be burned. They will be burned down. It's the same idea. So similarly, any arson due to be inspected inevitably experiences explosion and fire. Local or lower level officials find it preferable to face charges of negligence and corruption rather than dealing with the consequences of these inspections. They turn preemptive destruction into a method of confronting the central government's scrutiny. So Mr. Zhao said, um, he said, a terrifying atmosphere pervades in the military enterprises, and related state-owned enterprises. There are no clean officials or no clean officers in the Chinese military. Everyone is at risk of being purged. This purge has led to widespread resistance and passivity within the military and defense industries. This is the underlying cause of the 7 to 8 ammunition depot explosions reported over the last 6 months. With rampant corruption, those afraid of being implicated in the military purge acted first, destroying these depots to erase traces of past corruption. He also said that the failed rocket launches are the work of Defense Minister Li Shangfu's supporters in the aerospace industry to protest Xi Jinping's political purging. So here's the two former defense minister. The one on the left is Li Shangfu. Now, just as I was thinking how to verify or validate Mr. Zhao's claim, because it's quite substantial and detailed and informative, but I need a second source to validate that, right? And it's just turned out that another China expert reviewed something that's in the same line, and that kind of indirectly confirmed what Mr. Zhao said. And this is by someone that you are familiar. This is Chinese dissident and law professor Yuan Hongbin, who said in an interview on July 1st that Xi Jinping plans to severely punish the two defense ministers by giving them death sentence. So that was quite sensational. I mean, the interview was very long. Now the link is also provided. It's in Chinese. He talked about his Taiwan strategy, but like a fifth of that interview is about what he's going to do with the two defense ministers. So Professor Yuan Hongbin, has princely connections in Beijing, including Xi Jinping himself. Now, he said in the interview that Li Shangfu's crimes, besides the usual accusations of corruption, fundamentally included two most fatal charges. That's serious violation of political discipline and serious violation of organizational discipline. And his two serious crimes have been conveyed internally to PLA officers. And they specifically refer to Li Shangfu's support. So let me go back to this guy. To the defense minister's support for General Liu Yazhou, the former political commissar of the National Defense University, who has been locked up by Xi Jinping and is rumored to have been given a suspended life sentence. By the way, General Liu Yazhou is a well-known writer, military strategist. He is also the son-in-law of China's former president, Li Xiannian. So Li Shangfu covertly opposed Xi Jinping's strategy for resolving the Taiwan issue by using force. And this is according to the internal announcement by by the CCP to its military officers. So he covertly opposed Xi Jinping's strategy, the Taiwan strategy, and he widely spread the belief that should a war in the Taiwan Strait erupt, the PLA could suffer unprecedented catastrophic losses, thus causing chaos within the military ranks. Oh, okay. So wait a minute. So he spread the belief that if a war in the Taiwan Strait erupts, PLA could suffer unprecedented and catastrophic losses. And this, in Xi Jinping's mind, has caused chaos within the military and has weakened their resolve. And so this was Li's crime of serious violation of political discipline. His second crime, serious violation of organizational discipline, was communicated to the officers as, quote, with inflated personal political ambitions. He used his authority to form cliques, small factions, and cultivate personal power across different military industries and branches. Okay, so he was, I think, forming, not only he opposes Xi Jinping's strategy, he uses his influence in the military to create this, circles of influence across military industries and across different military branches. So according to Professor Yuan's source, Xi Jinping's comments in the report on Li Shangfu were as follows. Okay, this is a quote. He is grievously sinful or guilty for being anti-party and disrupting the PLA, deserving of the death penalty. That's what they say. So he is grievously sinful. He is anti-party. He has disrupted the PLA and therefore deserves of the death penalty. So Professor Yuan's contact in Beijing believes that Xi Jinping will use Li Shangfu's execution as an example to deter the others, setting a precedent for sentencing a general to death and carrying out immediately. As far as the other former defense minister, Wei Fenghe, he will also be sentenced to death with a 2-year suspended execution. This means that his life will be spared, but will be locked up for the rest of his life. Now, here's my analysis. Executing Li Shangfu is not a small matter. It's now Li Shangfu, along with Qin Gang, the foreign affairs minister, were both officials personally promoted by Xi Jinping. And different from Qin Gang, Li is a princeling. His father was a deputy commander of the PLA's railway troops. There was an armed force called 铁道兵. I don't think it still exists, but it was the old railway troops. Now, his father joined the Red Army in 1932, experienced the Long March, fought in the Chinese Civil War, and also in the Korean War. So he's an old, Red comrade, his father. So in addition to being a Red princeling, Li Shangfu is a trained engineer and has had a good education. He's an engineer by training, and he has long been involved in space launch missions. He was the first officer from the Strategic Support Force to serve as the deputy commander of the Manned Spaceflight Project. He later became the head of the PLA's Equipment Development Department. So his technical experience and his princeling status, and see, his princeling status is different from Xi Jinping's princeling status because In military, because his father was a commander. His father was also a military commander who fought in the war. And so in the military, in the PLA, they respect that kind of, like a family tradition. The same with Zhang Youxia, whose father was one of the founding marshals. So Zhang Youxia was, one of the two pairs of father-son generals in the history of PLA. So this kind of a generation, kind of legacy, right? PLA legacy, general, it carries more weight in the PLA. Xi Jinping's father was a political commissar, uh, so so that means this guy is very well. He, I mean, he has strong technical training, solid professional experience, solid princely status, a good family, legacy status. So all of that made him very, he has a very solid position in the PLA. Um, because I mean, if you're smart, but your dad is a nobody, your prospect is very good in the PLA. And if you're princeling, but you're dumb, people don't respect you. So in this case, Li Shangfu has all of those, criteria. Um, so he has certain weight. Now, if Xi Jinping is going to execute him, it can be very, very risky. And that's why, you know, because, Mr. Zhao uh, did not talk about how Xi Jinping is going to punish the two ministers. He only talked about this kind of a rocket failures are related to the punishment of the two ministers, are related to are the result of the supporters of Li Shangfu in the aerospace industry. But he didn't specifically talk about what kind of punishment Xi Jinping will give. Whereas Professor Yuan, specifically talk about the death sentence that Xi Jinping is going to give to Li Shangfu, and he will be executed immediately. So when I put the two together, uh, and I'm like, wow, it does explain it, doesn't it? Right? I mean, so here, um, so that's why it's very likely that the rocket launch accident from the Space Pioneer Company, which, by the way, has close ties to the rocket force and the princelings, right? I talked about earlier why the Space Pioneer Company is backed by the princelings and is closely tied to the rocket force. So that's why it's very likely that the accidental launch of that rocket could be a staged protest. So I don't know, let's do a vote. So do you think the accidental launch of rocket, um, what was one and two? I don't even remember what did I wrote. But Chris, let's do a post the vote, and I think vote 1 if you think it's accidental, and vote 2 if you think it's a staged protest. Let's see uh, what people think. I would be very interested to find out. So yeah, 1 is a tofu drag project, and number 2 is a staged protest. Um, it's very interesting to find out the voting results. So yeah, so this live stream, I mean, it was difficult for me to decide a title because I could call it. I mean, I could call it. You know, I mean, there's so many points covered in this talk. I don't know if I should put the focus on the copy fact. I mean, on the copycat, the fact that the company is a copycat of Elon Musk. I think that I probably should change the title to something else. This really gives you a very realistic view of the morale in the Chinese military industries. I think that's what this what this talk is really about. So let's What happened? Oh, did I accidentally sorry. I don't know what I hit. I accidentally exited the stage, but I'm back. I'm back. Where did she go? So sorry. Lei got too excited. I'm back. I'm back. All right. So let me see. Why you vote? Let me see what are some of the questions for me. I mean, by the two links, the two interviews given by Mr. Zhao and Mr. Yuan are in the description of this video. So if you read Chinese or uh, speak Chinese, you can watch the video and read the text. Um, but it's to me, it's unthinkable if Xi Jinping is going to execute his former defense minister for having a different view on Taiwan. I mean, in the West, you can resign. I mean, you have the freedom to resign, not do the job. You're not gonna lose your life. I mean, it's unthinkable, right? From our perspective, if you have a different view, you can resign and just be a private citizen and go on with your life. But here in communist China, the defense minister is caught. I mean, what can he do? He cannot quit, and he cannot. I mean, he has his own views. He cannot not having his view because he's a smart man. And then what can he do? That just shows you it's impossible for any smart person or for anyone who has any sense of judgment to survive in the CCP system, right? I mean, so I think his demise, if that happens, uh, will trigger a lot of people's resentment because it's hard. I mean, his only crime is he has different view. He does not think, the PLA should start a war in the Taiwan Strait, and he was a little bit vocal about it. He wasn't totally quiet. I mean, his only solution to survive the system is to be, to seal his lip, never say anything to anyone, and be a yes man, 100%. Never review his thoughts to anyone. I mean, that could have saved his life, but inside he could be utterly tortured and unhappy. I mean, imagine that's really what's happening in the PLA right now, right? Because people, if they look at, well, if a princeling like him, if a princeling like him, a smart man like him, is gonna lose his life for having a different opinion, or for being or being too confident in believing that Xi Jinping won't do anything to him because he's a princeling, because he has done so much for him. I mean, this will seriously kill the PLA's morale. I think it's serious. I mean, aside from the rocket, I mean, even the rocket is, like people say, is a tofu drag project. It was a faulty launch, or it was a faulty test. It was a faulty rocket. But if Professor Yuan's claim is correct, and the former defense minister will be executed, um, I don't know. I think it's gonna backfire seriously. That's just my view. I mean, you guys can, give your opinion. Let's see the vote. Okay, someone offered Lei, first is accident, two is protest, three is fireworks with Chinese characteristics. Fireworks with Chinese characteristics. What does that mean? Both? Three is both? Um, all right, let's see. Moonwalker, Lei, she is running out of people to appoint and replace. I feel that the CCP is just a lame duck and waiting for she to die or step down. It is just a matter of who will replace she. Good observation. Yeah, and IDZ0. I have a friend that lives in China. He says he's there for a better social record. Is that even worth doing? Better social record? I think everyone is getting a social score, right? Everyone is with this super app like WeChat. Everyone is giving a social score. So if you want to do well in China, or if you want your children to do well, you need to have a good social score, because if you have a bad social score, it could affect the chances for your children, going to school or finding a job. So from that perspective, maybe that's why he's there. And I think a lot of the people who are going back to China is because they have a good, uh, they're collecting uh, pension. They're former government employees or they're former government officials who have an amazing retirement package that they don't want to give up, right? So that's why they want to step on both. They want the best of both worlds. They want to live comfortably in the US, living in freedom, enjoy the freedom here, but they also don't want to give up their benefits in China because they have maybe they have free health care, they have good monthly pension and all of that. They don't want to lose that. What if they don't have health benefits here? If they get really sick, they can go back to China to see a doctor. So that's why they want to keep that. Moonwalker, 66% versus 35%. So the majority of people believe that it's a faulty rocket. Okay, that seems I don't have an opinion. I mean, as soon as I finished gathering all the information, it was time to do this live stream, so I didn't even have time to form my own opinion, but I'll go with whatever you guys say. So yeah, 66% faulty rocket and 34% staged protest. I'll go with your vote. Faulty test. Okay. The majority believes only 3 votes? What do you mean? How many people have voted? How many votes do we have? Can someone let me know how many votes? We should have at least like 200s. There are 900 people on this during on this live stream right now. Um, 200. Okay, 200. All right. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So that's a good indication. I think the percentage may go down. I think it will be like 60-40. That's my gut feeling. It will be like 60%, think it's an accidental, it's a faulty rocket, and then 40% think it's staged. All right, question. Moonwalker, do you think only she wants to invade Taiwan and the CCP is fine with just leaving Taiwan be, or is all of CCP wants to invade Taiwan? I don't even think Xi Jinping wants to invade Taiwan. He understands the risk. Wasn't there a media report that when Xi Jinping met with the EU leader von der Leyen when she was in Beijing, didn't Xi Jinping told her that that the United States was trying to trick him into having a war? It was a setup by the United States to trick him into having a war with Taiwan, Remember? So when that media report came out, people were saying that Xi Jinping was trying to tone down. He was trying to find an excuse for himself not to launch an attack because he's now finding it more and more difficult to do it because his people are not with him. So he's trying to give it an excuse, like formally announce an excuse. It's like, I'm not going to fall into the trap of the United States. The United States wants me to fight, the, fight the Taiwan, but I'm not falling into that trap. I mean, that's just what he needs at the moment to kind of back off from his previous plan a little bit. Um, okay, all right. Let me see. Question, Lei, how long do you think CCP government will last because of the left and the right sanction in US and EU? It depends on how long its economy. I mean, CCP is using money to sustain its rule. If it doesn't have money, if its economy collapses, um, the regime will fall down, will collapse. But the question is the West ready for a total collapse of the Chinese economy? I don't think the Biden administration uh, wants to see the Chinese economy or China's economy to disintegrate because it will affect the US economy. I mean, I have observed that the current administration is trying to postpone that, is trying to push that time bomb until after this election so he cannot be blamed for because if China's economy falls into pieces, it will affect U.S. economy. And if that happens before the election, I think that's what the Democrats are trying to avoid. Although there are other issues that they're trying to deal with now. So I don't know if China's economy, in the scheme of things, matters that much at this point. Okay. Huawei is in the meat trading industry. Yes, I made a short about that. It's in the meat trading business because it's having difficulties getting paid in the international markets, and so it's doing barter, right? So people, other countries like Argentina, Argentina was the country that paid Huawei with beef, with Argentinian beef. So Huawei is in the meat business by selling seafood products and meat products. So see, the U.S. Sometimes we wishfully believe that our sanctions work, but the Chinese can always come up with ways to dodge the sanctions. So it's just, and then by passing these laws, having these sanctions, we create more work for ourselves because every sanction you need people to reinforce it, right? You need to have people to make sure that it's being followed. So every time you create a sanction, there's more administrative work. There's more increased burden of administrative work created for ourselves using taxpayers' money. And why? And then the Chinese would just find another way to dodge the sanctions. So I don't know how effective that is, but that's the Western mindset. We have to do everything properly. You know, I think in a way we have cornered ourselves into a very small space when the CCP is so egregious and it does whatever it wants, and we're like so restricted. And we're being so I don't know how effective these sanctions are. And look at Huawei, right? All right, Ferrari guy. If the Chinese time bomb blows up and econ explodes, will that change their unwavering commitment to socialism with Chinese characteristics they committed to post the 2008 meltdown? Of course they will. As long as CCP is in power, it will, you know, unwavering in upholding their socialist in their socialist ideology and economic and state-controlled economic model. Because Xi Jinping has been convinced that the reason his country is having so many problems is because veered off the socialist path and tried to get into the capitalistic um, the capitalist style of economy. And from his perspective, from Wang Huning's perspective, it did not work for China. They don't see it as their authoritarian rule, their lack of political reforms is the reason that prevented the economic reforms to succeed. They don't look at it that way. They think the economic reforms were the problems. So that's why, I mean, they seriously believe that. They seriously believe that. And that's why, Xi Jinping wants to bring China back to the Maoist era, because he thought that even though people were poor, like during his teenage years when he went to Yan'an, they had nothing to eat. Remember, I did a video when they had no meat to eat. Um, so when meat was served, I mean, when they slaughtered a pig or whatever, they couldn't even wait for the meat to be cooked. They would eat the meat raw. That was how hungry he was. And he talked about that in an interview. But anyways, so he thought people were happy. That was his best memory of his years in poverty in Yan. And he said, people were happy, people were poor, they were friendly to each other, they were poor, and they had many children. They had many children, and now China is wealthier. People live a much better life, but no one wants to get married, or the young people don't want to get married and have children. So from his perspective, he said, well, those days were better. The reason China isn't doing well is because of these Western values and ideology and the economic reforms. Deng Xiaoping's economic reforms didn't work. So so he's not afraid to bring China back to the 1950s or the 1960s. So I hope I have answered the question. Jason Teddy, what's your thoughts on the power companies, Mao's and other terrorist groups' sabotage of the power grid and those explosives loaded in the transformers all over the US and the potential? I have not followed that, but one thing I know is that the CCP has somehow infiltrated the US power grid. I think if the two countries really go to war, I think maybe we have already gone to war, is going to be over the internet. I've said that, if a real war breaks out, maybe internet will be shut down. It will become a few supersized intranets. Like one side of the internet is not talking to the other side of the internet to fend off this kind of internet attacks. I mean, you have to, right? So it will be a cyber war, which is already happening. So okay, all right, let's see. Ken Phoebe, Lei, do you think it costs us more money to enforce sanctions than they spend to avoid them? Oh, I'm not saying to give up sanctions. I'm just saying that we need to find more effective ways to deter the CCP. You need to find more effective ways. I know the Chinese are very good at dodging these sanctions because they don't follow rules. See, sanctions only work for people who follow the rules, right? But I mean, take a look at. I mean, there's so much evidence that China has helped Russia in the war against Ukraine, but why we haven't really sanctioned Beijing? Why? As much as the West has made so much noise about supporting the Ukrainians and want Ukraine to win the war, but why they have not seriously sanctioned China? I mean, seriously sanctioning China for its support, for its secretive support to Russia in the war. It's always just warning the Chinese. Do you think the CCP react to any warnings? Right? So I think the answer, my answer is the Biden administration fears that if they put on too strong of economic sanctions, China's economy will collapse. That will have a rippling effect in the domestic economy, and this is the election year. It will not serve the Democrats well. That's the reason. All right. Nick Fury said, even Putin did not execute his generals, so she can be ruthless than Putin. Um, if that's the case, because we don't know if that's the case, we just heard it, right? But all I'm saying is the two sources of information that came out on the same day appear to agree and support each other, and that's if I just hear one source, I may not bring it to you, but I heard two sources that talked about different things, but they support each other. They paint one picture together. And I think it's very likely because right now, from Xi Jinping's perspective, I mean, how is he going to, he has to have a stick warning to really scare off. He has to have a dramatic and drastic, do something drastic to like seriously warn these PLA officers. And what can he do? Right? He has to sacrifice someone. That's from his perspective. Otherwise, he's losing control. So, I mean, even I mean, the rumor that we've heard that he's going to put General Liu Yazhou in a suspended life sentence. That's outrageous because he is the son-in-law of a former president of China. So so all of these are rumors, but at least they're consistent with one another. And so far, rumors have have predicted CCP politics more accurately than news report. So far, rumors coming out of China have been more accurate than state media, have been more accurate than some of the Western media. So that's why we cannot ignore these information, right? Okay, all right. Noel Gillette. Humanity, is that a question to me? Humanity is non-conversant, hence prepped. Is that a question for me? Oh, that's not. Okay. Wayne's World of Science and Technology. Check the Inside Russia YouTube channel. Russia is having issues getting things from China. Yeah. Yeah, that has been going on for the past 3 years. It's on and off. I mean, the CCP has behaved like a really, when, when the US is watching, it will behave for a couple of weeks. And then once the US is not watching, or US is busy dealing with some other crisis, and it will start doing its bad deeds again. So it has been like that for the past 3 years. Brian Smith, a minute ago, you suggested sanctions don't work. Okay, let me backtrack. I'm not saying sanctions don't work. I'm saying sanctions work as long as it's meaningful sanctions. I feel like some of the US sanctions are not substantial enough. It's more suggestive. It's more symbolic. The real purpose is not to really make the CCP feel the hurt. It serves more like a stick warning. Don't do this or else. But that or else should be the sanction. So our media does not do a good job. I mean, if you really study the US sanctions, it's I mean, the list of hundreds of companies that the U.S. released, a handful of them are Chinese companies. The hundreds of companies that are involved, the secondary sanctions, hundreds of companies. They're all over the world, but the Chinese companies or companies from Hong Kong is a very small percentage of that. So I think the U.S. or at least the current administration is very careful. In the Chinese we say 风声大雨点小. You hear the thunderstorm, you hear the thunder, but you see no raindrops. So it's all thunders, no rain. But with the Chinese saying, if you want, you need to bring down, you need to bring the rain. You need to bring real tears. If it's all thunder, it does not work on the CCP. They don't care if it's all thunder. Uh, you need to have the rain. The rain has to come down. That's the Chinese saying. So I'm not against sanctions, but I'm saying meaningful, substantial sanctions that's easier for us to enforce and that effectively can cut off CCP's support to Russia. All right. Okay, that's all. I've been talking for a long time, and I think I should stop here. I will see you not Thursday because it's July 4th. I think everyone should enjoy fireworks, but I may release a video. I may release a I'm making a Chinese mercenary video. My first mercenary video did very well, although I'm not getting enough ads revenue because but I'm making another mercenary video from to show you the Chinese mercenaries in Russia from a different perspective. Hopefully we'll release that this Thursday. So enjoy July 4th, and happy birthday to America, and enjoy the holiday week. Okay, I'll see you over the weekend. Bye bye.